Today on Rock and Blues Review, we are honored to have as a guest Megan Parnell. Megan, who is the voice of the hottest Canadian band out there right now, Bywater Call. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. We are looking forward to seeing you in this area, and you will be right down the road in September at the warehouse. So
Yes, that's right.
let's start with something about the band itself. One reviewer said Bywater Call has skyrocketed in popularity across the international scene, making waves at major festivals. Now that is nice to hear, and that is what prompted my introduction. You certainly seem to be super hot right now.
I mean, we're trying. It's hard to get perspective when you're in the middle of it, but we've certainly seen some really nice growth since our inception. We just got back from a European tour where we're seeing, the turnouts increase kind of every time we're there, and working on the same thing in Canada and the US as well.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. But I want to talk about the band first. So seven piece, which is unusual these days. It's tough to get a big band like that.
Yeah, I mean, we never when Dave and I started putting this band together, we never really imagined. We were just trying to, get into the small local clubs in Toronto and work on writing, which was something that we hadn't done before, and never really imagined that we would be touring all over Europe and Canada and the US. We just knew kind of the sound that we wanted, and we knew that part of that sound was going to be a horn section. So as soon as we got any kind of a festival slot, we added Steve and Julian in on the horn section, and now here we are finding a way to drag seven of us across the world.
Well, congratulations. It is a very good, very tight band. And you mentioned Dave, that's Dave Barnes. And is it fair to say that you two are still the leaders of this band?
Yeah, we're partners in this band. It's kind of 24/7 for us in our house and by water call. But I feel like him and I working together on this project, and then what the other guys bring to the table, we've seen a lot of growth in terms of the writing, not just kind of audience, but the kind of tunes that we're putting out.
Yeah, and as I mentioned, seven piece. Now, a lot of bands will put together a seven piece band for a showcase, but to do it full time is tough. A lot of logistics, especially touring.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge. We're out there and we'll come across 3 and 4 piece bands, and I'm kind of like, oh, even if they're getting paid the same as us, they're getting paid more. But we've established what this sound is for the band and the dynamic on stage, and it's just, we can't change it now. It wouldn't feel right. It's the project as it is, and we've because we've seen some growth, it's been nice. And as you know, like Canada has some decent funding, so that definitely helped out in the beginning when we were touring, especially in Europe, because the first 1 or 2 times around on something like that, there's really not much money coming in. You're just trying to establish yourself and get into some venues, kind of whatever the cost is. But now we can definitely go and do those tours, and know that we're not going to go broke doing it, and everybody can come home with a bit of cash in their pocket and a few new fans.
So you've made the decision to go at seven all the time. You're not adjusting to the venues.
I mean, not at this time, no.
Well, that's actually good.
Yeah.
Now, among those accolades we heard was one of them says, one of my favorite bands, Megan Parnell does a hell of a job. Put them on your playlist. Now, that was Joe Bonamassa. It must be nice to get that kind of attention.
Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate enough to be uh around him and his team a lot over the last few years. We've done 3 of their Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea cruises, and really gotten to know his team. Good friends of ours, Robert John and the Wreck, are on his label. We're going out and touring with Joanne Shaw Taylor in November, who's also on the label there. So while we don't work with them directly, we do work with them a lot, and it's been nice to kind of be brought in some way with that team. It's a bunch of really, really good people who are interested in helping out up and coming bands. That's one really nice thing about his the Keeping the Blues Alive at Sea cruises is you always see, pretty well known big name headliners, and then there's always room to bring in new and up and coming bands, and then those bands get the benefit of kind of being around some people who are at the top of their game and learning from that.
Yeah. And he's always been really good at helping out young bands, and he helped out with cash during COVID, and yeah, he's been good for the music.
Yeah, for sure.
Now you mentioned earlier about playing in the clubs and starting up. So it's often tough to get success popularity in your own backyard. Was that the case for you?
I mean, I feel like Toronto is a bit of a tough city. There's just so much music and fewer clubs all the time. And we definitely struggled to kind of get into the clubs that we saw as kind of go-tos for Toronto musicians. But eventually we got our foot in the door and started playing at some of those places. And now because it is such a busy city and there's so much going on at the moment, we've only been doing kind of one big show a year. That way we know we'll get a pretty good turnout and you know, leave them wanting more. But we do miss playing around the city. So Dave and I sometimes talk about just putting a little side project together and having some fun with that in some of the known kind of Toronto musician clubs.
Right. And was there a watershed moment for the band when you went from playing local clubs to touring the world?
Um, I mean, I guess what happened, like the first proper touring we ever did was in Europe. We kind of went from trying to get into the Toronto clubs and doing a few little some contests and getting access to a few Ontario festivals through those efforts to being given an opportunity and being booked on a European tour before we had even finished our first album, which was really cool and nice that people were taking a bit of a leap of faith on us. That was in January and February of 2020. And then obviously the world kind of shut down for a while. So we, did what we could to try to keep working on the band after we got over the initial shock of the whole thing to keep moving the project forward. And it's kind of been since then that we decided the move was to kind of go into a bigger venue and do like one good show a year. Um, just yeah, that's kind of when we made that decision.
Right. Oh, you just mentioned Europe. You just finished 25 dates. You got 10 days off, and then you're doing 23 more dates in the US and Canada, including Mont Tremblant. And you've got 10 more dates booked for next year already. So you're so busy. Is it difficult now to budget your time for recording, playing, touring, and resting?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think yeah, finding a balance is always a struggle. We try to carve out space for the guys. Dave and I get to be on the road together, which presents its own challenges. But the rest of the guys are away from their families and their partners for a good portion of the time. So doing our best to kind of carve out some space so everybody can have some personal time and um, we have to consider mental health. But then yes, writing and finding time to write and record when we're on the road so much too is a real challenge. And um we found different ways to deal with it. Sometimes, when we have enough to work with, we'll do a lot of workshopping during sound checks if we can to try to move some of that stuff forward and make it a goal on this tour. We'll get one new tune in the mix just to get something new on stage and see how it's feeling. Sometimes there's just not, we just don't have that time. Whether it's we don't have, enough of a skeleton of a tune ready or sound checks just don't come together, and you're kind of rushing through to make doors. But we try to look ahead at the calendar, set aside some dates for that, and then use that as a goal to get some new material ready.
Well, I think a lot of bands miss out that planning and then they end up touring till they drop and a lot of the same clubs over and over. So it's probably a good thing that you're at least trying to plan. You,
Yeah.
you're going to be awful busy though over the next year and a half.
Yeah, I mean the calendar is full, which is a good thing. You know, we're trying to be a little bit more choosy here and there about what we commit ourselves to, but um, we're still in a place where we're really growing as a band. So when we get new opportunities that kind of expose us to new audiences, we need to take them.
Tell me about the writing itself. Dave does a lot of it. What does the writing process look like for the band?
Yeah, so for the most part, it starts with Dave and I. Usually, Dave with some sort of a concept, whether it's a chord structure and a vibe. Sometimes he's got a story idea or at least a few lyrics worked out for me to work off of, and then we'll pass that idea back and forth. We'll workshop lyrics and the structure of the tune and what the vocal melody is going to be and does it need a bridge and blah blah blah. And when we think a functioning skeleton of a tune, we'll take it to the band to kind of put on the finishing touches. And it's different with every song. Sometimes the role of the rest of the band is a lot larger. Sometimes Dave has a really kind of solid idea of a tune to begin with, and we don't need to do that much workshopping. Um, but yeah, for the most part, starts with Dave. Every once in a while, I'm like, I have the inkling of an idea, and he'll help me form that, and it'll again go back and forth between the two of us, but once until we're ready to take it to the rest of the guys.
Now, on the new album, Dave is also producer, and you've got some engineering and mixing from Bruce McCarthy. It's got to be a bonus to have those skills in the band,
For sure. Our 2024 album, Shepherd, was the first one that we kind of self-produced, and we didn't name a producer. It was kind of a collaborative effort between the band. It was that whole album was engineered and mixed by Bruce, so it was really, really insular, um, which was a very good experience. But in this case, we wanted a bit of an outside voice, so we brought in our friend Patrick McGorty to um, do most of the engineering on that. And really Dave really steered the direction of most of this tune. We did a lot of kind of playing around with the tunes at home and him playing with sounds and whatever, and then bringing it to Pat, and then Pat would help us kind of realize how to really bring some of those ideas to life. So we kind of credit the two of them as ultimately the production on this album. But yeah, again, a self-produced, this album is very much, Bywater call and our voice. So
so where did the name come from in the first place? Bywater Call.
Bywater is a neighborhood in New Orleans, right next to the French Quarter, and we needed a name. Dave and I have spent a lot of time in New Orleans. We really, really love that city. Kind of fell in love with it the first time we were there, and how music just permeates everything that's going on there. So yeah, we thought Bywater was just a cool name that meant something to us. And then the call is just the call to go back and visit, but also to incorporate kind of the feeling that we get from that city into the music that we're making.
Right. Now, one of the quotes from classic rock said, a gorgeous hybrid of 60s soul and rootsy Tedeschi truck-esque rock and roll. Do you mind when people compare you to Susan Tedeschi?
Of course not. She's fantastic. And really, that band was when they came out with Revelator, the first album of theirs. That was a big moment for us. Dave kind of hearing what Derek was doing with the slide guitar, and me hearing Susan and really feeling connected with that. I'm like, here's a singer who has like a beautiful tone and is in my opinion like a just simple but gorgeous and incredibly talented singer. I'm not a riffy singer myself, I'm not a super fancy singer, and that's kind of what I heard in Susan, and I was like, oh, okay, I think we have the makings for something. We loved what they were doing, and we used that as inspiration to kind of start the band. And while I don't think what we're putting out there is the same as TTB. I definitely welcome and understand the comparisons with the slide guitar and the raspy female vocal. And yeah, I mean it's an honor to have those names in the same sentence as ours. So
Yeah, absolutely. She's fantastic. And I think that there's sometimes a problem with reviewers or even record labels who label someone as sounding like someone. If that's their sound, that's their sound. They shouldn't be criticized for it. And I've seen that before. Now,
yeah, and sorry, I was gonna say I think in the context of people using it, I mean, you need to describe using comparisons is one of the easiest ways to describe
exactly.
music, and I think it's always been said in the context of a compliment, so I would take that for sure. But there's tons of other artists that we draw from, and I think that comes through more and more in the music as well.
Right. Right. But how much pressure do you feel? Because obviously, there's no doubt that the sound of your band has lots to do with your voice. Do you feel the added pressure of that?
uh yeah, for sure. That's something Dave and I talk about a lot, in when we're writing tunes, is how to utilize that. Do we I don't I want emotion to come through in the vocals, emotion and quality, and um not necessarily a perfect vocal line or executed perfectly, but something human. Um, and sometimes it's like, we'll write stuff that we think sits in a place where it sounds really pretty, but sometimes we don't want it to sound pretty. So just figuring out how to use, I guess, my voice as a tool um, for what we're trying to get across. And then, I mean, on the road, especially with the way that we tour, it's important that I try to maintain my vocal cords and make sure that I'm performing to the best of my ability every night. Because it is a big part of the sound for sure.
Right. And you mentioned that the band has a lot of influences, and I read, a lot of the bios on you and promotions, and they do list a lot of different influences. Uh, does the seven-piece band have something to do with that too, with so much input?
I mean, we definitely look to influences where you're hearing the same kind of instrumentation or similar instrumentation to get inspiration. So, we look at bigger bands like Sly and the Family Stone and James Brown, or even like Amy Winehouse, who had, the dap tones behind her. And so that definitely plays a part in it, knowing that we have this instrumentation to incorporate into a song. What do we want the horns to sound like? Well, let's check out some tunes that have a horn section um, that maybe reflects the style that we're going for in a particular song.
Right. Now, I don't understand why a lot of artists don't worry too much about their stage appearance, but you have a wardrobe that commands attention. And I think that, along with original material, is part of moving up to that next level. Is that something you consciously work on?
I'm constantly thinking about my stage wardrobe, unfortunately. Um, yeah, I don't know. I hope it commands some sort of a presence on stage. I change my mind a lot, but I do want to look the part of the lead on stage. And yeah, my hair changes a lot too, but I think I've settled into something right now. But yeah, I'm always kind of looking for something that feels like me but elevated in a way, and also reflects the kind of vibe of the music.
Right. No, I think it's important. We talked about moving up to that next level. And I think creating an event, a visual experience is part of that.
100%. Yep, for sure.
So let's talk about the new album. It's due out July 29th.
That's right.
All right. And you've already had five singles released. Uh, and I think that's smart to release those singles. And I know Blues Rock Review loves you guys. They've already done 8 pieces on you, which is for a Canadian band, that's pretty good.
We appreciate it for sure.
So, is releasing singles part of your strategy? Is it a band decision?
I think it's part of the music landscape these days, especially a band at our level where we are still, we're you're you struggle to stay relevant um, within a scene where there's, just monsters. If Bruno Mars puts out a tune on a digital platform, that'll eclipse everything, So just trying to stay relevant and keep people interested um, leading up to a release. We this last album we didn't write and record it all in one go. We kind of wrote it and recorded it as we had ideas ready and as we had time in our schedule to go into the studio and do it. So we kind of wanted to release the album in the same way where, I mean, a couple things. It means that, we don't want to create a bunch of silence from the band. We want um, to consistently put things out there. You can also see kind of where our influences changed throughout the year um, as we were writing, which I think is kind of interesting. Um, and yeah, just creating a timeline where we can consistently put stuff out, but create time for us to finish the project, instead of rushing through it, finish the project in a way that we're really happy with. But still, months earlier, be serving up some tidbits to people. That was not very succinct, but
Yeah. Well, you answered a number of questions there about the process itself. And when you put out an album, maybe this one or any album, do you sometimes find there's a difference between your favorite song on the album and your favorite song to sing?
yeah, yes. Our live show is different from the albums. I if people like what they're hearing, I encourage them to come out to shows because you get to see um I don't know if it's not necessarily another side, but you get to see more. So like the guys are all jazz trained and we like to let the audience see what they're capable of and I get to step back and they can show their skills and play off of each other and the interaction on stage is really really great. And then for me what I like especially recently is the tunes I've become very very comfortable with playing with them a bit. So even for the vocal performance when you come out to a show it's a little bit different every time you come out. um some of my favorite tunes on the album we don't get to play that often because we're trying to create um, a, a journey on our live shows, which means we can't put 6 ballads in a night. It doesn't work. So, some of those more delicate tunes we don't get to play every night. Um, and they all have their special moment, but then some of those ragers that I'm like, well, I might not listen to that tune as much, but the vibe I get from the audience when we play it is just electric. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
different.
Yeah. Well, I have to say that the album sounds great and your videos look really good. And I think that's also a mistake that some bands make. They're so much better live than the recordings, so it's tough to translate that into sales, but I think you guys are beating that. You feel you're on the right track?
I hope so. I mean, we're trying to do all the things you're supposed to do, and yet I still feel like we're probably missing big pieces of the puzzle, but if we knew all the pieces of the puzzle, then we'd probably be really famous. I don't know. Nobody knows exactly what the thing is, right? But having visual content along with the recorded content, I think is pretty important. And, finding new and different ways of getting the music out in front of people. Um, yeah.
Well, you're not alone in not having all the answers because, one of my interviews was Tom Hambridge, who's got a resume of producing, including
Yeah.
Tedeschi trucks.
Yeah. Massive,
Yeah.
massive.
And he said the same thing. I don't know. He said, I don't know. So you're not alone there.
Yeah, we got to spend a little time with Tom in Nashville in like January, I think, which is nice. He's a really cool dude.
He is a great guy.
Yeah, very
So,
humbling to be around.
exactly. Now, you mentioned Nashville, so let's jump to that for a second. Uh, what's it like when you go to a city like that and see such talent all around you? Because I've had artists tell me they want to quit because of they can't believe how many are out there, and others who are inspired. So where do you fall on that spectrum?
I mean, Nashville's a pretty intimidating city for sure. But I think we we tour so much that like getting hung up on one city in the US and while it is very important in the music scene, I think is not doesn't really reflect our experience as musicians. We haven't really taken in much of Nashville yet. We've played a couple shows there. Um that were not particularly well attended. As hard of a city as Toronto is, Nashville is harder. Um, but looking at other ways to kind of get introduced to those kind of audiences, we jumped on a show with our friends Robert John and the Wreck. They had us support a show in Franklin, a sold out show at the Franklin Theater in Nashville, and that was a really cool experience. And hopefully that'll translate to the next time that we're in or around the city. Um, so yeah, just finding intimidating cities like that and finding ways to kind of break through the noise a little bit somehow.
Have you been surprised by any country or city in the music scene? There's some place that you just were not expecting.
I mean, when we first started touring in Europe, again, we had done nothing like that at all. And nobody knew who we were, and we were selling out small venues. So the willingness in Europe to just come out and see a show that I think it's missing a little bit in North America. I think people are a little bit more tentative or a bit more, uh, I don't know, hibernated maybe
Mhm.
than in Europe. Uh, so that was a surprise at first, for sure, several years ago when we first started going out to do that. Trying to think, there's been so many shows. I'm sure there's been lots of surprises for me.
Yeah. Well, now speaking of that, you qualified for the International Blues Challenge, but you chose to go to the UK instead. Why did you do that?
Um, there were a few reasons. I mean that competition is pretty awesome, and we've seen how it's helped a lot of people in the scene. Um, we were going to be going to the UK for the first time that year as a full band, and um, we kind of wanted to focus on. We had an opportunity to introduce ourselves to the UK market as a duo, supporting again Robert John and the Wreck, ahead of bringing the whole band out there. And we thought in terms of kind of bang for our buck and how that would benefit us. We thought that was the right move. We'd also just signed with a US booking agency, which was one of the main reasons we wanted to do the challenge, was to kind of get exposed to bookers in the States, and break into that market. So, we had accomplished that before going down there also. Um, I mean, those are a couple of main reasons. It's expensive. Also, we know people who have gone down there with big bands and how much that was going to cost us. So we kind of had to weigh out, you know, uh, introducing our band to the UK market or spending $10,000 to go to Memphis and do the competition. And yeah, one won out over the other.
Yeah. Well, it certainly seems to have paid off. You've got three consecutive UK nominations for International Band of the Year.
Yeah,
So congratulations on that.
thank you.
And it's not an easy market either. I've interviewed a few Europeans already, and there's certainly a vibrant scene and certainly some great talent. So good for you.
Yeah,
Now,
it's pretty cool.
why do you think UK has embraced you so well?
Wow, that's a good question. I don't know. I think there's something very real in the music that we offer. Um, Again, like emotion in the music is really, really important to us, very important to me as a singer. And I make a very big effort to kind of connect with the audience while I'm on stage. And then afterwards, I'm always out there talking to people after the show. And I think a lot of that helps
Oh, that's
kind of
huge.
create, yeah, that helps create kind of steadfast relationships between you and your fans. So then we'll see, when people know that we're coming over for a chunk of time, they'll make a plan and they'll come and see us at two or three shows, which is really cool. They'll tell their friends, they'll bring out a group of people. So yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
creating a bond with the audience is something that I work pretty hard on.
Well, again, there are so many who don't, and I don't understand it because it is huge. So good for you.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned your emotion a minute ago. So what is your emotional state of mind knowing that you've got so much work ahead, uh, and but is that balanced by the knowledge that your popularity is growing so well?
I mean, it helps to feel like we're growing for sure, but it's a frustrating, scary industry. And um, we haven't even put out the new album and we're like, okay, we've got to make plans for the next one. And, we've written we have some ideas going, but we really haven't started developing the new album yet, but we really feel like we need to be the the need to like just keep moving forward can be a little overwhelming sometimes. Um, so just kind of sitting back and being like, we're doing okay. Things are good, but it's hard to have that perspective for sure.
Yeah. But I appreciate you taking time today because I know you only got a short break and then you're back out. Uh, have you been able to sit back and soak in some of the success and just enjoy it?
I mean, I've taken it easy for the last couple days for sure. um, and yeah, kind of looking back on the tours and when we get home from them and being like, once you have a couple steps back from it, be like, that was good. Things are going in the right direction. And looking at the year ahead, and getting excited about that. Yeah, for sure.
Well, I know the readers of Blues Rock Review will be interested in the U.S. leg of this tour. And what does it mean for you to have U.S. success?
Um, I mean, it's a very important market and it's a massive country. It we certainly haven't, same with Canada. Like we have not hit up every corner for sure. There's still a lot. But in particular in the east side of the country, we've seen a lot of support and we've seen a lot of growth, and that gives us encouragement and hope to kind of continue foraging into that market. Um, so I mean, really, any market that's ready to embrace us and help us grow is important to me.
Yeah. Well, I saw, one comment was you're successful from Belgium to Florida. It is quite a range. Uh,
Yeah.
And the music scene in Florida, I spent a number of years there, and I was shocked at, especially blues. It's very big.
Yeah, it's a great market for us. I mean, we've always done pretty good there. We've consistently played a few venues where again we've gotten to see, when you visit the same venues a few times and you get to see kind of the numbers increase every time that you go. Um, then it gives you, yeah, it gives you you need something to measure it all by, right? So that helps for sure.
So I saw that Robert Randolph had invited you on stage. There's somebody else you'd like to sidle up beside on the stage?
Oh man, tons. There's so many great artists out there. It's hard to kind of to pinpoint one or the other. We're flying in and out of Denver on Friday to play an afternoon slot at a festival there, and on Friday night The Wood Brothers are playing, who I absolutely adore. I mean, if we ever had a chance to work with them, that would be amazing. Yeah, Robert Randolph's super cool. There's tons of female artists that are just killer. Brandy Carlisle's huge right now. Wouldn't it be cool to, you know, share the stage with her? Um, oh gosh, there's so many, but Grace Potter. Um, I could probably go on about artists I'd love to work with all day.
All right. Well, we're almost out of time, so let's talk just to quickly about so I mentioned earlier you're playing the Warehouse in St. Catharines Thursday, September 3rd, and that's where I am, a few miles from there. So it will be nice to see you coming to town. You will have been on the road for quite a bit by then.
Yeah, we're excited. We have a nice little kind of string of Ontario shows coming up around that time of year. We haven't played in St. Catharines. We haven't played in Guelph. We haven't played, I think we've done like one show a long time ago in Hamilton. So kind of starting to kind of branch out into those markets is really important for us. It's important for us to grow at home, which is something we haven't focused enough on in the last few years. And we really made a priority this year to kind of to get into more of those markets. We're going to be playing in Sarnia, um, Peterborough. Yeah, so we're really looking forward to all that.
Well, I think with the resume you've built and the track record, you're going to be welcomed at any town that you choose to visit.
I certainly hope so.
So, like I said, we're almost out of time, so I will thank you for doing this. I know you're so busy, and it was nice of you to take time off your time off to talk to us today.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the support, that's for sure.
Well, we certainly like helping everyone wherever we can. So, best of luck on the tour. We hope to see you in September, and stay healthy, have fun.
Awesome. You too. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.